Welcome back to the NBA Saga. Thank you for tuning in today. In this episode, we are going to dive into one of the most controversial and complicated chapters in NBA history. The scandal that didn't just shake the league. It changed the entire trajectory of Kobe Bryant's career, his image, and even the way we talk about greatness and redemption in sports. Before everything exploded, Kobe Bryant was not just a star. He was the golden boy of the NBA, a young prodigy straight out of high school, a three-time champion by the age of 23, the smiling face of the Los Angeles Lakers dynasty alongside Shaquille O'Neal. To many fans, he was the heir to Michael Jordan, both in style and in mentality. He had the perfect narrative, the son of a former NBA player, the polyglot, the hard-working, obsessive gym rat. No off-court drama, no scandals, just greatness and potential. Brands loved that image. Kobe was on magazine covers and billboards around the world. He had shoe deals, commercials, jerseys, selling globally. He was the safe superstar, the kind of player parents wanted their kids to look up to. The league presented him as the next global icon, young, charismatic, and marketable. And then, in the summer of 2003, everything changed. What had looked like a perfect story suddenly cracked in the most dramatic way possible. News broke that Kobe Bryant had been accused of sexual assault by a woman in Colorado. A criminal case was opened. The media attention was immediate and overwhelming. The narrative flipped in an instant, from future face of the league to central figure in a serious criminal investigation. From that moment on, Kobe's life was no longer defined only by basketball. The world watched not his footwork, but his court dates. Not just his scoring stats, but every word he said in front of microphones. Every appearance at a hearing became a spectacle. Every expression was analyzed. He was no longer just an athlete. He was a symbol, a subject of debates about power, fame, and responsibility. Inside that storm, there were multiple layers colliding at once. There was the legal process with all its complexity. There was the ethical and moral debate in which the public, the media, and fans took sides. There was the business side with sponsors reevaluating their relationship with Kobe. And then there was the human side. A man who had lived his whole life as a basketball prodigy, now facing the darkest, most exposed moment of his life. Endorsements started to evaporate. Some companies cut ties. Others quietly stepped back from promoting him. The smiling billboard Kobe disappeared. The commercials slowed down. The public perception shifted sharply. For some, he would forever be associated with that scandal, no matter what the legal outcome was. For others, it became a test of how they viewed their heroes. On the court, the 2003 to 2004 season became a surreal mix of elite performance and off-court chaos. Kobe would often fly from Colorado for court hearings back to wherever the Lakers were playing. One day he was in a courtroom. The next day he was dropping 30 or 40 points in an NBA game. He would arrive late, sometimes exhausted, then still step on the floor and perform at an all-star level. It created one of the strangest, most intense seasons in NBA history. That year, the Lakers assembled a so-called super team with Karl Malone and Gary Payton joining Shaq and Kobe. But behind the scenes, the team was fractured. The drama between Shaq and Kobe, the coaching tension with Phil Jackson, and the constant media circus around the accusation created a toxic environment. Kobe's scandal wasn't just his personal crisis. It influenced the chemistry of one of the most talented teams ever assembled. For Kobe personally, that period was a psychological earthquake. He went from beloved superstar to polarizing figure. Every road game became a confrontation. Fans taunted him. Sides mocked him. Jeers followed him everywhere. Some arenas turned each free throw attempt into a public judgment. This was no longer just about basketball mistakes. It was about character, morality, and public anger. Legally, the criminal case was eventually dropped after the accuser declined to testify. A civil case followed, which was settled out of court. Kobe issued a public statement that included an apology and an acknowledgement that the woman did not view the encounter the same way he did. The legal file closed, but the public memory did not. For many, the story never fully ended. It became a permanent part of the way they saw Kobe Bryant. And this is where the story shifts from pure scandal to transformation. Because, like it or not, this moment forced Kobe into a crossroads. He could either collapse under the weight of public hostility and personal crisis, or he could rebuild himself as a player and as a person in full view of the world. What followed wasn't a clean redemption story. It was messy, complicated, and deeply human. The Kobe we saw after the scandal was not the same smiling young kid from the three-peat years. His demeanor became colder, sharper. There was a darkness in his competitiveness, a sense that he had accepted being the villain in other people's stories. You could see it in his eyes on the court, in the way he attacked defenses, in the way he carried himself. He was no longer trying to be loved. He was trying to prove something to himself, to the league, to history. From a basketball standpoint, this period pushed Kobe deeper into his obsessive work ethic. If he had trained hard before, now he became almost mythically intense. Early morning workouts, endless film study, relentless skill refinement. His game evolved. He became a more polished mid-range assassin, a master of footwork, angles, and counters. He developed a scoring arsenal that could not be easily game planned. The Mamba mentality that we hear about so often, in many ways, was shaped and hardened in the fire of this scandal. It is important not to romanticize pain or excuse anything by pointing to athletic greatness. But if we are analyzing how this scandal changed Kobe's career, we have to acknowledge that it created a new version of him, a version that embraced pressure, that accepted being booed, that used hostility as fuel. He turned external hatred into internal motivation. His jersey change from number 8 to 24 symbolized that transformation. It wasn't just a marketing decision. It was a psychological reset. Number 8 represented the young, explosive Kobe, the high flyer, the kid in the shadow of Shaq, the pre-scandal star. Number 24 represented the older, more calculated, more deliberate Kobe, the one who carried teams, who took responsibility, who was no longer simply riding the wave of raw talent and charisma. Emotionally, imagine what that art feels like. To grow up believing you were destined to be a hero, to be told you were special your entire life, then to wake up one day and realize that for millions of people, you are now the villain. To see your name dragged across headlines, your face next to the word scandal, in every newspaper and TV broadcast. To watch sponsors step away, fans turn their backs, and your every move dissected and judged. That kind of fall from grace can break a person. It can swallow them whole. But Kobe, for better or worse, used that pain as the core of his new identity. He embraced the weight, he absorbed the booze, and he decided that if he could not control public opinion, he would control his work, his craft, and his pursuit of greatness. Post-scandal, Kobe's individual performances reached historic levels. We saw the 81-point game, the scoring explosions, the back-to-back scoring titles. These weren't just random stat lines. They were expressions of a man who had devoted himself fully to basketball as his chosen arena of redemption. He couldn't rewrite the past, but he could control how he showed up every night on the court. Eventually, he returned to the top of the NBA as a champion again. In 2009 and 2010, he led the Lakers to back-to-back titles. This time, there was no Shaq, no super team around him. It was Kobe's team. His fingerprints were on everything. The leadership, the late game heroics, the demanding practices, the driven, sometimes harsh, but deeply committed approach to winning. In those finals runs, the public perception began to shift again. Some fans who had sworn they would never support him found themselves unable to deny his greatness on the court. Others still refused to separate his achievements from the scandal. And that tension continues even today. When people debate his legacy, was he a redeemed figure? Was he a flawed genius? Was he both? The answer depends on who you ask. Off the court, Kobe eventually became known for his dedication to his family, his daughters, and his post-basketball projects. He invested in storytelling, coaching, and mentoring the next generation. For many younger fans, especially those who were children during the scandal, their primary image of Kobe is not the controversy, but the wise veteran and loving father. The man who tore his Achilles, walked to the free throw line, hit both shots, and walked off on his own. The mentor to countless young players. But the scandal never fully vanished from the conversation. It is part of every serious discussion about his life and career. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that athletes can be both legendary and deeply complicated. That greatness on the court does not erase controversy or pain off the court. That legacy is not a clean, simple, inspirational story. It is a messy combination of brilliance, mistakes, growth, and unresolved questions. When we say the scandal that changed Kobe's entire career, we are not just talking about a legal case. We are talking about a pivot point in identity. Before the scandal, Kobe was the league's golden child. After it, he was something more complex. He became the relentless anti-hero, the player who was willing to be hated, the competitor who built his mythology not on perfection, but on obsession, resilience, and the refusal to run from pressure. No matter where you stand on Kobe Bryant, you cannot tell his story without this chapter. It shaped how he played, how he led, how he was marketed, how he was remembered. It turned his career from a straightforward superstar narrative into a layered, controversial, and emotionally charged saga. And it forces all of us, as fans and storytellers, to ask hard questions about forgiveness, accountability, and what it means to separate or not separate the artist from the art. In the end, Kobe's legacy is a paradox. He is an icon of work ethic, mental toughness, and competitive fire. He is also a figure marked by scandal and controversy. Those two truths sit side by side. They don't cancel each other out. They coexist uneasily. And maybe that is why his story continues to fascinate, inspire, and divide people years after his final game. Thank you for watching this episode of the NBA Saga. If you made it this far, we really appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please don't forget to like the video, share it with other basketball fans, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next stories. See you in the next video.